So we are the group T. We are reporting about one of the famous pre-Socratic philosopher, Thales of Miletus. Thales of Miletus lived in ancient Greece. He was the first scientist in history. Thales looked for patterns in nature to explain the way the world worked, rather than believing everything happened only because one of the Greek gods commanded it. He replaced superstitions with science. He was the first person to use deductive logic to find new results in geometry and through requiring proof of theorems. Took mathematics to a new higher level. In general, what we know of him was written hundreds of years after he lived. By Aristotle, for example, when pronouncing his name we say Thales, emphasizing the first syllable. There may have been other scientists before Thales, but if there were, we do not know their names. Early life education. Thales was born into a privileged family in the ancient Greek city of Miletus in about the year 624 BC. His father's name was Examias and his mother's name was Cleobuline. He was born in the same era as Aesop, famous for his fables. When Thales was born, Miletus was one of the wealthiest and most powerful of all the Greek cities. Today it is located on the coast of Turkey. Thales was born into a Greek society intellectually less advanced than those to its east and south. The Babylonians and the ancient Egyptians, for example. The Babylonians were masterful astronomers and mathematicians, while the Egyptians were also far ahead of the Greeks in the fields. In Egypt and Babylon, mathematics was used in commerce, astronomy, and construction projects. It was a thoroughly practical science. Astronomy was used to study the heavens to understand what the gods might be thinking. As a young man, Thales became a merchant, which was probably his family's line of business. In his later years, Thales traveled to Egypt, where he learned about astronomy and mathematics. He may have traveled to Babylon. If he did, it would have been during the reign of Nebuchadnezzar. When Thales returned to Miletus, he changed careers, took a big drop in income, and became ancient Greece's first scientist. Thales the Science. At some point after he returned to Miletus, Thales took a step beyond his teachers. Of course, his teachers may have taken this step themselves, but if they did, there is no historical record of it. Thales realized that no natural phenomena had rational causes that could be studied and understood. For example, the annual flooding of the river Nile could be explained without Hapi, the river god shown above. The annual rise in the river Nile's level was vital for the success of the kingdom's harvests. Every year, the silty river would rise and replenish the land around it with nutrients and moisture. The river would then fall and Egyptians would farm the newly fertile land. Without the Nile, there could be no kingdom of Egypt because rain hardly ever fell there. The Egyptians believed the Nile's floods were caused by Hapi, one of their many gods. If the gods were displeased, the river would not flood, and there would be famine. The gods had to be kept happy at all costs. Thales said the Nile flooded for natural reasons, not because of Nowadays, of course, we know the Nile floods because seasonal rains fall farther south in Africa. In fact, it was another ancient Greek, Eratosthenes, who was the first to figure this out, although Thales himself seems to have speculated about the true cause. The switch between believing the gods were responsible for day-to-day events and believing that if we understood natural phenomena we could actually explain and predict events was Thales' greatest achievement. Earthquakes. Ancient people believed earthquakes were a measure of their god's anger. Sacrifices, including human sacrifices, and some cultures become the normal way of trying to pacify angry gods. Thales sought a rational explanation for earthquakes. He theorized that our whole planet Earth is a flat disk floating on an infinite sea of water, and the earthquakes come when the planet is hit by a wave traveling through the water. With the benefit of modern science, we know Thales got it wrong. His theory was, however, an enormous advance on saying the earth shook because Zeus was annoyed about something. Thales had at least tried to find a rational explanation for earthquakes. A further benefit of Thales' ideas was they required no sacrifices to be made. Astronomy. Thales learned about astronomy in Egypt and possibly Babylon. When Archimedes was killed during the Roman Consul of Syracuse in 212 BC, the Roman historian Caesar wrote about the event. He tells us the Romans discovered Archimedes had a machine that actually predicted the movement of the moon and planets, and predicted solar and lunar eclipses. Such a machine has actually been found by archaeologists. It is an amazing, sophisticated device called the Antikythera mechanism. The Romans also found a more basic globe showing the celestial sphere, a forerunner of the Antikythera mechanism which had first been made by Thales.
Believes in gods. Thales did not reject the gods. He believed the gods were present in everything. As a result of this, all matter had some aspect of life in it. He thought that by understanding the fundamental principles of nature, people would actually get to know and understanding their gods better. Legacy. Thales was the founder of science in ancient Greece. He established the Milesian school, which passed on his knowledge, most notably to Anaximander and Pythagoras. Greek science and mathematics peaked about 300 years later, in the era of Archimedes. The rediscovery of ancient Greek knowledge was sparked the fire of Renaissance and scientific revolution in Europe, setting science of a course lending to our modern technological world. The rejection of superstition in favor of science began with Thales. Family, life, and the end. Accounts from accounts from Asian historians disagree about whatever Thales ever married. Some say he married and had a son. Others say that he did not marry but treated one of his nephews as if he were his son. Thales died aged about 78 in about the year 546